Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Sham Vishnupad Param Sivarati Kshara Shtottara Shattistvain Grace Abhaya Charinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Shri Caitanya Caritamrta Ki Jai. Jai Gaura Premanande Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we are continuing from Sri Caitanya Caritamrta Madhya Lila, chapter 22, the process of devotional service, and I think from text 110 or 11. I'll read 10. I'm not sure. So we're hearing how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing Srila Sanatana Goswami, one of the two chief Goswamis of the six Goswamis. He's actually the elder brother of Sri Rupa Goswami, as we know. And we heard the beautiful pastime how Sanatana Goswami came to meet Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by first escaping the prison by using the money that his brother Rupa Goswami had deposited, and by flattering the jailkeeper there. And that's like one of my favorite pastimes. It's so sweet and funny how he, for example, glorifies this jailkeeper as being a great saint and well versed in the Quran and all of that. And many beautiful lessons we can learn in that pastime. I won't go in detail, of course, now, just to briefly get where we are in pastime-wise. So, then he gets free, and then there's one other major challenge where he because his servant Ishan, he actually took gold coins with him, and although Sanatana Goswami told him not to take anything because he knew it just risks their life, because especially at that time, and those kind of people, like who were there at that time, those Muslims, they easily would kill people for gold like that. So, and that's when they reached one particular landlord. This landlord had a an expert in palmistry, right? Who could understand, and in that way could easily understand that they had those gold coins, and so the landlord was planning to kill him, and then but Sanatana Goswami could understand that they, by his experience as even Prabhupada explains there as a because he was, he was was Rupa Goswami Prime Minister, and he was but either he was Prime Minister, or both of them had like the major roles in serving the, and of course they had to do it for the sake of protecting the other Vaishnava community, so that they wouldn't get chastised. So that's why they had to, before that, at that time, use the skills for helping the Muslim king or ruler there, and so he had knowledge from that also. And obviously, as a pure devotee, he's guided by the super soul anyway. But so he could understand it, and then he offered the gold coins, and so then the landlord was pleased to help him, and they continued traveling. And in any case, eventually, then Sanatana Goswami reached there to the house of Chandrasekhara Acharya, where, but not looking like a Vaishnava externally. So Chandrasekhara Acharya, when he saw him first, he told Mahaprabhu, no, there's no, because Mahaprabhu was asking, is there, because obviously he knew as the Lord, is there a Vaishnava sitting outside there? And Chandrasekhara Acharya said, no, there's no Vaishnava. And then Mahaprabhu told him, look again, is there at least anyone? And then said, yeah, there's a Muslim mendicant. That's what he thought Sanatana Goswami ought to be. And then, then Mahaprabhu tells him, yeah, in any case, please bring him in. And so then he addresses him, oh, Muslim mendicant, the Lord is calling for you, please come in. And so that's how they meet, and then obviously the Sanatana Goswami being a very close associate, eternal associate of Mahaprabhu, both of them in great ecstatic love embrace each other. And although Sanatana Goswami from his side, of course, in great humility, he wouldn't want to touch the Lord, he would feel too impure for that, but the Lord forcefully does, and they cry tears and all of that. And yeah, and then when we come to what we have been hearing now for quite some time, the instructions that he's giving to him. The first, we know famously how Sanatana Goswami very humbly presented himself as not knowing what his purpose is, not knowing who he is, as if he would be a conditioned soul. And that's why in the first chapter Mahaprabhu then instructed him in the Sambandha Gyan of understanding our relationship with Krishna. And then now in the chapter after that, that's what we are at now, is the process of the devotional service, or Abhideya. And so here, we heard, like Mahaprabhu, it's amazing how many words, although he's the Lord himself, so whatever word he speaks is automatically completely perfect and authoritative, but still, just to exemplify that Vaishnavas, that we do not come up with any concoctions, but we simply take the Shastras as the highest authority. So even Mahaprabhu himself, he's quoting so many verses actually. So if you read even just this one chapter, you will be inspired to memorize like dozens of verses from all over Srimad Bhagavatam and some Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Samrita Sindhu, and even some other Shastra. So yes, many amazing verses how that he quotes to show the superiority of bhakti, and also how like at one point he then mentioned also that only devotees, by engaging in this devotional service, that we get those all the greatest qualities, all the Vaishnava qualities. He lists them up, and he where he quotes obviously verses like Yasasti Bhakti Bhagavati Kinchana from Prahlad Maharaj, 5th canto, and then he explains in what we most recently, after the qualities, what we heard last week, then first he warns actually also in terms of not that we cannot develop those qualities, or even if we would have them, we could lose them, or they could become covered again if you take wrong association. materialistically minded people. So he quotes there Lord Kapiladev, 3rd canto, and 3 verses, and then and one strong verse from the Caitanya Samhita, which says that it is better to be encaged within bars and surrounded by burning flames than to associate with those bereft of Krishna consciousness. So very strongly Mahaprabhu warns us of not taking wrong association, and instead then he quotes obviously verses also like another, also Kapiladev's, but the positive side, Satam Prasangam Mama Virya Samvido, that in association of devotees there, then particularly this message of the Lord becomes very potent. The Lord is very much pleased then to reveal Himself to us. And and then he started to describe now about that there's Raganuga Bhakti and there's Sadhana Bhakti. And obviously in Sadhana Bhakti being that in which one, like Prabhupada explained one time, for example, that Sadhana Bhakti means you do what I tell you. So Sadhana Bhakti means to simply follow the rules and regulations as set forth by our spiritual master according to the Shastras, obviously. And by doing that, then we heard also, then naturally the Raganuga Bhakti will eventually awaken, and naturally the eternal love in our heart will be awakened. Like one famous verse there's also in Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Karayudaya Shravanadi Shuddha. No, sorry, that's the first. How it begins, like Shravanada Shuddha Chitta Sadhukavanoya. Oh no, that's the second line. Yeah, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhukavanoya Shravanada Shuddha Chitta Karayudaya. Yeah, so that love of God is eternally situated in our heart, and by the process of devotional service, beginning with hearing, it will be revived. So, and then, so in the last text, that was 110, which Kamsai Sena Prabhu read last week, there we hear that it's under service rendered under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, according to the regulative principles mentioned in the revealed scriptures. And that is called Vaidhi Bhakti or Sadhana Bhakti. So we'll continue now 110, where Mahaprabhu makes another quotation from Bhagavatam, which is 2.1.5, which is Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Haririshvaraha Shrottavya Kirtitavyascha Smartavyascha Chatabhayam. O descendant of Bharata, O Maharaj Parikshit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart as Paramatma, who is the Supreme Controller and who always removes the miseries of living entities, must always be heard about from reliable sources, and he must be glorified and remembered by one who wishes to become fearless. So, showing, and Prabhupada there under Prabhupada explains that it's the duty actually of anyone who is interested in really in his own self-interest and self-realization, then we have to hear about the Lord and we have to glorify the Lord. So that's the, Shravanam Kirtanam are the most foundational ones and the most important ones till, all the way. So, and then Prabhupada makes the link that when one hears about the Lord and glorifies Him, it is natural to think of Him. So then Smaranam, remembering the Lord, becomes easy, becomes natural. And then to read 111. Mukha bahura padavyaha purushavya shramahi saha chatvaro chakye varana gunir vipradaya pritak. From the mouth of Brahma, the Brahminical order has come into existence. Similarly, from his arms, the Kshatriyas have come. From his waist, the Vaishyas have come, and from his legs, the Shudras have come. These four orders and their spiritual counterparts, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas, combine to make human society complete. So, and again, that's another quotation from Bhagavatam 11.5, 2 and 3. So now we see how he explains even from the Varnashrama level, which is obviously below pure devotional service, but as it is still important because it is by following properly, then naturally one will become a brahmana and will then hear about the Lord and become a devotee eventually by good association. So I'll read the translation of the next text, 112. If one simply maintains an official position in the four varnas and ashramas, but does not worship the Supreme Lord Vishnu, he falls down from his puffed up position into a hellish condition. So now Mahaprabhu is but immediately explaining how simply thinking Varnashrama Dharma itself in being the means and the end, that is a great mistake. Then it does not have much use, but it rather we should. It is basically it's like a proper system for material life, but then we should still use it simply then to be able to engage in devotional service. So whatever varna, whatever position one is, to then accordingly engage in devotional service. So 113. That's another quotation from Padma Purana, so I'll recite. Smartavya satatam Vishnu vismartavya nachatu chet sarva viti nisheda syura eta yoreva kinkara. So that's actually a very famous verse, which, I'll read the translation first. So Krishna is the origin of Lord Vishnu. He should always be remembered and never forgotten at any time. All the rules and prohibitions mentioned in the Shastras should be the servants of these two principles. So, that verse is very famous, obviously, because we know, because we can understand from that everything else is actually secondary, because all that we do, it's simply meant to facilitate our remembering Krishna again, and because that's our natural, it's Krishna consciousness after all, so we are meant to, our natural state of mind is to remember Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, but because we fell into illusion, associating with the material energy, we have to endeavor to engage in Vaidhi Bhakti, as we hear here, and thus be able to again remember gradually, until it becomes completely natural. But for that we have to follow rules and regulations, but in this verse here we understand that we should not see it separate. We should always understand all those rules and regulations are simply meant to aid us in our devotional service to be able in this way then to remember Krishna. And so then we'll go to text 114. I shall say something about the various practices of devotional service, which is expanded in so many ways. I wish to speak briefly on the essential practices. 115. On the path of regulative devotional service, one must observe the following items. 1. One must accept a bona fide spiritual master. 2. Accept initiation from him. 3. Serve him. 4. Receive instructions from the spiritual master and make inquiries in order to learn devotional service. And 5. Follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas and follow the directions given by the spiritual master. So again, here we see that regulative devotional service really means to follow the spiritual master. Like in all those 5 items, we hear the importance of the spiritual master. First of all, of course, to accept, and then take initiation from him to formally make the bond and commit to follow his instructions, and then by that basis having set, then the third step is then to engage in his service, and then receive instructions, make inquiries in order to learn devotional service, so to improve our devotional service, and in this way follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas and follow directions given by the spiritual master. So, this shows us also that it's not just having the extreme fortune of getting shelter of a spiritual master and getting initiation from a spiritual master is really great. It's something we can't conceive of, this kind of mercy. Like, I remember Prabhupada in one purport he explains how that Krishna's manifestation or manifesting as the spiritual master, this kind of mercy, it's like, yeah, really, we can never come to conceive of how great it actually is. Because, yeah, we made this choice to leave Krishna, and we entangled ourselves so heavily, and we would never be able to, even if somehow we come to the point, okay, realizing no, material life is not what really gives me happiness, but we wouldn't be able to come back to Krishna easily. At least it would take very long and very hard endeavor. But by Krishna's mercy, by himself presenting himself as the spiritual master, he gives us immediately direct instructions how to, make a complete turnaround, as we can see, like all of us who somehow got the mercy of the devotees of Srila Prabhupada, that this process is so simple, and but to really be able to take to it, to understand it, we need the mercy of devotees and the association of devotees. And so, but what I wanted to say here is about, yes, so it's absolutely great to get initiated from a spiritual master, but that's only the second step. Then comes to serve him, and then in the fourth point here it's mentioned that we have to receive instructions and we have to make inquiries in order to learn devotional service. So at whatever stage we are, we should always have this attitude of never thinking that, okay, I know what it's about, I know I have to follow the four regulative principles, chant 16 rounds, and do however much service I can do in somehow contributing here to the movement, which is all great, but still we should always have the attitude of being dependent on the instructions of the spiritual master to be able to improve in terms of our attitude, to improve in our practical devotional service, to understand, trying always to understand, what is it really, particularly at any time, what Sri Sri Radha Gopinath wants from me, and we're not qualified to directly receive the instructions face to face or from within the heart. That's why we have to hear it from the spiritual master, or by his mercy then through a spiritual authority, local authority that we might be under. But yeah, so that's something we can keep in mind, and always feel grateful for, also for having this facility to be able to inquire from senior devotees and from the spiritual master to improve our devotional service. But of course that also means that that's only possible if we have some basic degree of sincerity, because it means we have to be humble enough that we actually are ready and are wanting to be criticized. Because otherwise, there's no point in obviously in crying, oh, how can I improve? And then it's, oh, you do better like this than that, and then we get offended. And then obviously, I mean, the spiritual master wouldn't do anyway if he understands. It's just you're just gonna do apparat, so there's only going backwards. So obviously, from our side, we need to understand the importance, the urgency of our wanting to make spiritual advancement and improving our devotional service. And then Krishna, the spiritual master, they are an ocean of mercy, as we know. So they are always ready to give more mercy and give, especially also, we need it in the form of instructions and corrections. So text 116. The next steps are as follows. 6. One should be prepared to give up everything for Krishna's satisfaction, and one should also accept everything for Krishna's satisfaction. So, that's also interesting, like something which transcendentalists from other paths perhaps would not be able to understand. That devotees, we know that there's both sides, so that we might have to give up material comforts, material facilities for the pleasure of Krishna, and at other times we might have to engage something or even acquire something, or in material facilities or anything for the pleasure of Krishna. So a devotee that's Yukta Vairagya, a devotee is simply focused on Krishna. He sees everything, understands everything to be Krishna's energy, and therefore is able to interact with everything in that way, to engage it simply for Krishna's pleasure and for advancing everyone's devotional service. So then point 7, one must live in a place where Krishna is present, a city like Vrindavana or Mathura, or a Krishna temple. So yeah, Prabhupada is immediately making here the point also that it doesn't mean that everyone has to leave everything and just live in Vrindavan or in Mayapur or any of the holy dhams in India, but that a Krishna temple is itself also a holy dham. So like Prabhupada many times he would explain that dham means there is Krishna with and where there is Krishna there is his associates. We might not be able to see it, but there's Krishna with his associates performing his pastimes, and there's devotees also, like not only those whom we can't see, but there's in a temple like here, there's devotees always rendering nitya seva, always rendering service, like as it especially in those kind of temples like here, which were established by Srila Prabhupada, where Prabhupada established the proper worship of the deities also according to a certain standard, where, like we know here, every single day throughout the year, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath are worshipped by, in a particular number of times, artis and bhoga offerings and everything, and without fail. So there is nitya seva going on, and and so the whole purpose of a temple is simply to have as a facility for performing devotional service to the Supreme Lordship, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. So, it is, and thus it is filled with Krishna consciousness, the atmosphere as well. So it is non-different from a holy dham. And so one must live in such a place, so that's one point here. Obviously, not everyone can live in the temple, but at least should understand, even living outside, that our real home is actually here. Like Rajanapriya, you mentioned that recently also in a class, that yes, we might have our homes wherever, here in Sydney or wherever else, but in terms, our heart should live here at least, and we should always, we might have our altar at home, a little altar, but we consider even those deities as being expansions of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, and we'll have pictures of Shri Shri Radha Gopinath, and we'll, as much as possible, we'll come to the temple obviously, and we'll do as much service as we can and associate with the devotees here. So then point 8, one should acquire a livelihood that is just sufficient to keep body and soul together. So that, Prabhupada also would say that quite a few times, that actually the whole purpose of eating is simply to keep body and soul together. That's perhaps something which we might be a bit far away from, but at the same time Prabhupada also many times would encourage, yes, relish prasadam, Krishna prasadam. So, but of course it's good to at least know it, that if we indulge too much, then we know that any we experience, then we'll just become lethargic or overweight or whatever, and it will impede our devotional service. So we should, even though we might be a bit attached still to this kind of sense gratification, that we at least understand that the actual purpose is simply to strengthen our bodies so that we can engage in the devotional service for the pleasure of the Lord. So then text point 9, one must fast on Ekadashi day. Oh, so that's today. So again, fasting, our movement is not a particular fasting movement. So even though on Ekadashi it's recommended obviously full fast, but Prabhupada's mood was always more important is devotional service, especially preaching. So if fasting, someone can fast and still do full service, and it inspires him better to engage in sadhana and service, then good. But otherwise, we simply fast from grains at least on Ekadashi, and otherwise, focus on devotional service on our sadhana. So text 117. one should worship datri trees, banyan trees, cows, brahmanas and devotees of Lord Vishnu. One should avoid offenses against devotional service and the holy name. So it's a short purport, so I'll briefly read it also. There are 10 items in the beginning of devotional service up to the point of worshipping the dati tree, banyan tree, cow, brahman and devotee of Lord Vishnu. The 11th item is to avoid offenses when rendering devotional service and chanting the holy names. So it's interesting how that worshipping trees is also in the part of regulative devotional service, but obviously for us, most important is Srimati Tulsi Mani, who in every temple we worship, and cows is also something like here is directly not so much possible, but in we have the farm, as we know, we're in Cessnock, for example, and Brahmas and devotees of Lord Vishnu, that we know that Vaishnava Seva is most potent, and and then one should avoid offenses. So that itself is also an item of regulative devotional service, which is very important. That's why we also recite always the offenses against the chanting of the holy name before we start the japa in the morning. So, continuing 118. The 12th item is to give up the company of non-devotees. One should not accept an unlimited number of disciples. So that's 12, is give up company of non-devotees. Again, which, as I said, Mahaprabhu already more elaborately explained before, actually. And then point 13 is that one should not accept an unlimited number of disciples. Because, generally, one reason, I guess, might be because the tendency might come in that one becomes proud, or that I have so many followers, and also otherwise, obviously, we know the risk is there that if a disciple doesn't follow properly the instructions of the spiritual master, then the spiritual master has to suffer from the karma. And that's why generally, as we see here, it's not recommended to accept too many disciples, because it's risky for the spiritual master himself. But we know, of course, there's exceptional cases, like Srila Prabhupada, he instructed His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj to accept 60,000, or how many? 50,000, okay. But he has already even 1 hour, isn't it? Yeah. So, obviously there's exceptional souls. But that's the general rule. Now, point 14, one should not partially study many scriptures just to be able to give references and expand explanations. So, that's an interesting point, that one should not partially study many scriptures. So, Prabhupada, and the Prabhupada, he explains actually there's those four books are enough: Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Caitanya Caritamrta, and Nectar of Devotional, Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu. And Prabhupada actually explains that if one studies these properly, I'll just read this last few sentences, they're really beautiful. Prabhupada is saying that, so these 4 books, they are adequate for the understanding of the philosophy and the spreading of missionary activities all over the world. If one studies a particular book, he must do so thoroughly. That is the principle. By thoroughly studying a limited number of books, one can understand the philosophy. So, because otherwise, we can very easily get confused, obviously, and especially, also, most of us we are not qualified to read other books other than Srila Prabhupada's books at that moment, because Prabhupada is our founder Acharya, and he's able to give it to us in a way, even the most, like what we are reading right here, Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, most elevated, in a way that even the neophytes, we can get some proper understanding, basic understanding, appreciation because it's like a mother feeding a little baby into the mouth. That's how Prabhupada gives it to us through his amazing purports, and we can see in his purports always his protective mood also, how he is our spiritual father of all of us. So, whereas if we go to other books, we don't have that, and also we then may just, and therefore we just concoct our own things automatically if we actually can directly understand it properly. And also, like in the verse here, it's mentioned that one should not partially study many scriptures just to be able to give references and expand explanations. So, and obviously the mood itself is also wrong, that to try to study just to get information and then to be able to show off, basically, as it said here, to give and expand explanations. Whereas we know actually reading Srila Prabhupada's books is a important part of our sadhana bhakti, of what we are reading about here, and it's but not in a mood of I master this book and I want to just remember, understand, and then show off my knowledge, but rather it is I want to receive this knowledge and then the mercy, and simply by associating with the book, with Srila Prabhupada, with Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, everyone, simply by reading these books, we can associate with them, and we thereby become greatly purified and uplifted in our consciousness. So that's the purpose of it. It's not about being able to simply have knowledge itself. So, I found a very beautiful point. We'll continue to text 119. So now text 15. The devotee should treat loss and gain equally. So, that's basically kind of like Krishna would tell us in Bhagavad Gita, how a yogi in general is supposed to be like that not to get elated by happiness or overcome by lamentation and distress, but understanding that we are not the controller, Krishna is the controller, and we take whatever comes as His mercy and always look of how we can please the Lord. So point 16, the devotee should not be overwhelmed by lamentation. So, kind of spoke about that already. And text 17, the devotee should not worship demigods, nor should he disrespect them. Similarly, the devotee should not study or criticize other scriptures. So, that's interesting also, that we know, obviously in general, we don't worship separately demigods, like Krishna would tell, that only those whose intelligence has been taken away by lust, by material desires, kamestas tirita jnana prapatantyanya devataha. Only those go to the demigods. But and then also, and later then in 9th chapter, he calls demigod worship as avidipurvakam, because actually not according to regulative principles, although at one level it is also, but then ultimately it is not, because if you don't understand that actually Krishna is to really enjoy, and it is an indirect worship of Him only, and so the proper process is to directly worship Krishna. That's how He's actually pleased. And but then the other side, which is mentioned here, nor should he disrespect the demigods. So obviously, as a neophyte, we might fall into this trap, silly that, okay, now I understand Krishna tells, don't worship the demigods, or to hell with the demigods. So we might kind of get this attitude, foolishly, when we are immature. But obviously, we understand, no, the demigods, they are all devotees, and they do very valuable, important service for Krishna. I mean, obviously, he doesn't need anyone, but still he is pleased by being able to entrust those activities to those very qualified jivas who can take such posts of King Indra, Soma, Surya, and everyone. So, and therefore, obviously, we should not disrespect them. We should always remember still we are down here, and they are greatly elevated, and they have, they never forget. They might, like we see in pastimes with Indra, for example, especially, they might here and there slip up a bit in their devotional service, but still, the Prabhupada would say in terms the difference between us and demigods is that demigods, even though they have so much material enjoyment, they actually never forget their service to Krishna, their relationship with Krishna. And so that's one glorious quality of the demigods, and that's why we also see that they always, whenever they are in danger, in some trouble with the demons, that they always approach Krishna, or many times first through Lord Brahma, but understanding their relationship with Krishna and their dependence on Krishna. So, and then it said the last thing, similarly the devotee should not study or criticize other scriptures. So, because that links a bit now what we just heard before into point 14, that on the one hand we should not study too many books half-heartedly and just getting confused, but then at the same time, obviously we should not condemn other scriptures, but understand, okay, for me, that's the best medicine for me, and that's how I should receive it, or what I should receive. But like even Prabhupada, we see many times he would glorify actually even the Quran and the Bible, because disciples when they would say, well, you say like in very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, and Prabhupada would write that if you study Bhagavad Gita, you'll find everything contained in all the other scriptures and more than that. And so we might think that, okay, so everything else is useless. No, it's not like that. It has all its value for at least giving some basic spiritual knowledge for those who are attached to that particular religion. But obviously, for teaching love of Godhead, most potent are those books directly from Krishna through the Parampara. But yeah, still, those other scriptures have also value, and we should respect them in that way. So text 120, so that's point 18. The devotee should not hear Lord Vishnu or his devotees blasphemed. So, yeah, this morning I spoke a bit on the pastime of Daksha blaspheming Lord Shiva. So that's obviously quite a dramatic pastime of showing what kind of consequences it can have if you do blaspheme. And there we nicely see also, not only for the blasphemer, but even like it's mentioned here, one should not even hear, what to speak of yourself blaspheming. One should not even hear blasphemy. And there in that pastime we see also that there are associates of Daksha who did hear and who did kind of approve of it by I forgot the names and everyone, but one of them I think smiled, so then they I think broke out his teeth and things like that. So so some of those got all different kinds of got disfigured, but Lord Shiva then he mostly restores it and they repent later. But so we should it's explained actually. We see that actually, don't know, was it a bit before here or later, where in Varanasi, where Mahaprabhu is meeting Srila Sanatana Goswami here, that actually the other devotees, because Varanasi we know is generally the town there of the Mayavadis, but there are those few devotees who are there and whom Mahaprabhu is staying with, Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhara, and one other Brahmana, I think Maharashtrian Brahmana. They actually, at one point they do hear the blasphemy of the Mayavadis about Mahaprabhu, and so they become very disturbed by that, and approach Mahaprabhu, and that's why then he eventually agrees to meet them, and that's this beautiful picture. Where is it now? There in the corner. Okay, where we see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sitting at the doorstep of the Mayavadi sannyasis, and to give them his mercy and deliver them eventually. But he does it actually, more importantly, for the pleasure of who were already his devotees there, because they got disturbed by their blasphemy. But anyway, in one purport there, Prabhupada is explaining that if you hear blasphemy, the first thing if you can do, is if you challenge them and defeat them by quoting Shastra. So second best, yeah, I think second best is committing suicide, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. And then third best is what those devotees did at that time to, run away, to not hear it. And so which they did, they ran away and told Mahaprabhu. And yeah, so that's about blasphemy of the Lord and the Vaishnavas, which was point 18. Now point 19, the devotee should avoid reading or hearing newspapers or mundane books that contain stories of love affairs between men and women or subjects palatable to the senses. Yeah, that's quite self-explanatory, that obviously we don't do any of that because it will simply contaminate our consciousness and revive material desires, whereas if we read transcendental literature like this, it revives our love for Krishna and naturally frees us from those material desires. So point 20, neither by mind nor words should the devotee cause anxiety to any living entity, regardless how insignificant he may be. Yeah, that's quite strong actually also, that like we might think if ahimsa, non-violence, it's great if you don't kill other living entities, which we otherwise as non-devotees would have thought, like for example, the mosquitoes or something, we would think, yeah, they are meant to not disturb us, we can kill them easily. So what to speak of not killing them? He had said, even neither by mind nor words, right? Yeah, neither by mind nor words should the devotee cause anxiety to any living entities, regardless how insignificant he may be. So that's the level that we should actually be non-violent, of not even by our words or mind. We should disturb any living entity, no, even if it's some tiny insect. So, yeah, I read recently in end of 5th canto, there's even one specific hell for, those who do, that's like, give unnecessary pain to other creatures who, because it's explained there, that Prabhupada explains, that human beings, we are in the life form where our intelligence, our consciousness is more highly developed, which enables us to understand that actually, yes, I'm like to have the choice of what we actually want to do, and whether shall I kill this animal or not, and we understand the consequence and everything. Whereas those creatures, they have no idea. They don't bite us out of anger or envy to harm us. They simply, that's their nature. That's how they live. That's what they're supposed to do. So they don't. Whereas if we harm someone else, then it's out of anger, out of envy to wanting to harm the other person. And understanding that, then your human being should understand. Yes, this creature, it's nature. It's not intentionally harming me, so I should not kill it. I should not disturb it. Okay, we might go away or find some way to try to avoid the disturbance, but he had said not even by words or mind actually we should disturb them. So text 121. After one is established in devotional service, the positive actions are 1. Hearing, 2. Chanting, 3. Remembering, 4. Worshipping, 5. Praying, 6. Serving, 7. Accepting servitorship, 8. Becoming a friend, and 9. Surrendering fully. So that's basically here is quoting Prahlad Maharaj's description of sadhana bhakti, of those 9 limbs of devotional service. And I heard recently in a lecture of Amarendra Prabhu, which I found very interesting, where he explained that we generally, we know that verse, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam, that, but then the verse after that actually is directly linked and is very important because it explains that all of these are to be done, again, now what we are discussing here in Vaidhi Bhakti, are to be done under the direction of a spiritual master. Otherwise, if independently if we do, then it's not even considered really devotional service. So, because we are not in Raganuga Bhakti, so we have to practice Vaidhi Bhakti, and if we don't do that as under the direction of the spiritual master, then we don't even do Vaidhi Bhakti. Then, okay, some Sukriti you get in whatever way you approach Krishna, obviously. But to really make substantial advancement, we need the guidance of the spiritual master. So, then text 122. One should also, number 10, dance before the deity. 11, sing before the deity. 12, open one's mind to the deity. 13, offer obeisances to the deity. 14, stand up before the deity and the spiritual master just to show them respect. 15, follow the deity or the spiritual master. And 16, visit different places of pilgrimage or go see the deity in the temple. Wow, so that's actually, sounds like a lot, but all of that actually, if you come to the temple, you will be doing that. So, isn't it amazing? Like you'll kirtan, you'll dance before the deity, you'll sing before the deity, when you take darshan, you'll open your mind to Sri Sri Radha Gopinath. Before that, you'll offer obeisances, and when you leave, you'll offer obeisances, and you, stand up to show your respect. Obviously, you won't sit in a casual way. And 15, follow the deity or the spiritual master. And 16, visit different places. So basically, like Prabhupada explained before, even simply by coming to temple, you're doing that. So the mercy of Srila Prabhupada making those spiritual embassies, that itself is inconceivable. And then he's giving us his books, giving us chanting, and so much. We won't be able ever to really conceive of the greatness of this mercy, and we won't be able to repay. But as Prabhupada says, if you want to try to repay me, then you can do that by assisting me in spreading this mercy by distributing his books and somehow other reaching out to more people, more fallen souls. Okay, when exactly did you start? Did you check? I think around 45, right? Okay, so text 123. One should, 17, circumambulate the temple. 18, recite various prayers. 19, chant softly. 20, chant congregationally. 21, smell the incense and flower garlands offered to the deity. And 22, eat the remnants of food offered to the deity. So again, basically all of that is, at least at normal times, now there's still restrictions where we are not able to do all of it, like smelling flower garlands offered to the deity, or the flowers from Arti, and the oil, Nasima oil and all of that. But eat the remnants we can eat prasadam, and chant softly, chant congregationally. Obviously that's japa, our personal japa, and the kirtan that we do together. So, continuing text 124, one should, 23, attend arti and festivals. 24, see the deity. 25, present what is very dear to oneself to the deity. 26, meditate, and 27, serve those related to the Lord. So, again, still all of that, we get facility in the temple to attend arti and festivals, see the deity, obviously, present what is very dear to oneself to the deity. So, generally when we come before the lordships, it's always good to bring something, and not something which I don't need that anyway, so I can put in the altar. But as said, present what is very dear to oneself, to the deity. So we should buy something, or if we don't have something to, we think, yes, that I really like that, and I think Sri Sri Radha Gopinath will also be able to enjoy that in such a mode. And meditate. Meditate, obviously, most important we know is by chanting and hearing. And 27, serve those related to the Lord. So, naturally, when we are in the temple, there's many other devotees, so we will get opportunity to serve devotees also. Okay, text 125. Tadiya means the tulsi leaves, the devotees of Krishna, the birthplace of Krishna Mathura, and the Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna is very eager to see his devotee serve Tulsi, Vaishnavas, Mathura, and Bhagavatam. So, as we mentioned before, Srimati Tulsi Maharani is especially dear to Krishna and important in his worship. And but for that you have to come early morning for Tulsi Arati after Mangalati. Still a bit more merciful than Guru Ashtakam. So if you come by around 5, a bit before 5, then you'll get to attend Tulsi Arati, where we sing the beautiful prayers of, I think, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, is it? Of worshipping Tulsi Maharani, praying to her to make us her maidservant and thus also engage us in pure devotional service to Shri Shri Radha Gopinath. And yeah, birthplace of Krishna again for us, that's here the temple, being non-different from his birthplace also, and Vedic literature like Srimad Bhagavatam, which we hear every morning, and of course Sri Caitanya Caritamrta itself is also like, I think Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says it's like the next canto. It's like continuation from Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's actually even more elevated in one sense. And yeah, so Krishna is especially pleased when we serve those 4 items: Srimati Tulsi Maharani, his birthplace, Srimad Bhagavatam, and his devotees, the Vaishnavas. So text 126, 31. One should perform all endeavors for Krishna. So that's kind of relating to everyone, that even if we might not be able to directly come here and serve Krishna, at least we should somehow or other link it to Krishna and understand that I'm working very hard here, but actually I do it for this particular purpose, like I work to earn money and thus be able to maintain my family nicely and in a Krishna conscious way, and as much as possible that we can come to temple and can engage in devotional service or can go to the Dham. So everything related to Krishna and everything ultimately therefore endeavoring for his pleasure. So point 32, one should look forward to his mercy. So yeah, like it's Asha Bandha, I think it's described in Nectar of Devotion, that hope against hope, that even on the one hand it's like a paradox, that the devotee, on the one hand he's so humble that he feels himself very fallen, even though he may be very elevated, and feels very unqualified for getting Krishna's mercy. But then at the same time, on the other hand, he understands that Krishna is unlimitedly merciful, and so that he gives his mercy freely to even, or especially to the most fallen. And so in that way he's also very confident about Krishna's mercy. He knows, my Lord is so merciful, I'm so fallen, I'm not qualified for the mercy, but I know that still he will give because he's so merciful. So yeah, that's the beauty in Bhakti Yoga, that it's really beyond any material calculations, and it's sorry. Go to 33. One should partake of various ceremonies with devotees, ceremonies like Lord Krishna's birthday or Ramachandra's birthday. So basically that means that obviously, especially at festival times, at least we should make it to the temple. Festival, it's Utsava, Mahotsava, which means great enthusiasm, an event of great enthusiasm, which is naturally filled with enthusiasm. You would have experienced that if you're at any time. If you come to temple, you should, if you come in a proper mood and if things is proper, you should get infused in your devotional service. But obviously, especially at festival times, there's naturally heightened enthusiasm of everyone looking forward to a special celebration of the Lord's glories and mercy, and everyone at those times, then many devotees would go out of their way and do even much more service and do special endeavors for the Lord, special decorations, garlands, and offerings in various ways. So yeah, in this way, especially at festivals, we should all come and take in all the enthusiasm that we can to nurture our devotional service. Okay, I guess we are on time now. So we stopped at text 126, and there's still, I think, quite a few more items that Mahaprabhu will list of Vaidhi Bhakti. Okay, so thank you for your attention. there's any quick question or comment, otherwise. Yes, bro?
So the A, B, C, D, follow all those guidelines. I understand those principles. It creates good consciousness and wants to. But what's the logic behind deity worshiping? I mean, it's just a statue, but like, what's the idea and the logic behind deity worshiping? Because I don't really understand. Like, for example,
No, it's...
I've got a friend and he's a Muslim, and in Islam they consider deity worshiping as evil.
Yeah, that's because they don't understand. Yeah, because they don't understand. They don't... And
What's the logic behind deity worshiping?
yeah, I mean, they don't even understand that the Lord is a person. So what to speak of understanding that He has the potency and the mercy to come in the form of a deity and still be directly the Lord. So the deity is not a statue, not at all. It's
So it is a physical manifestation.
yeah, it's simply Prabhupada explains it's because all of us as having come here as conditioned souls, we are covered by our material body, by our material senses, so we are not able to directly perceive spirit, and thus we can't even see ourselves. We can't see the super soul right next to us. So, what to speak of seeing Krishna in his fullest manifestation as Bhagavan? But but the whole purpose of the material world is to give us the facility for, when having the free will, then that for those who want to misuse it, okay, misuse it, but then he gives Krishna so many facilities to enable us to easily then come back to him again. So that's why the whole Vedas are for that purpose, and then but especially then those for pure devotional service, the scriptures, and yeah, in so many ways Krishna makes himself accessible by his holy name, especially now, easily made available by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, Srila Prabhupada's mercy, and yeah, so the holy name, his Krishna Prasadam, for example, why it's externally again it just looks like food, but it's not food. It's the remnants of Krishna, because he is omnipotent. He can do anything. So for our benefit, it is his pleasure to accept our whatever offerings we are able to make. Like, I mean, what can we cook anyway? In the spiritual world, they cook so much better. But still, it is for our benefit. Out of his mercy, he accepts, and so the bhoga becomes prasad, becomes spiritual. And same with the deity form. He presents himself in those material elements, but it's not material then actually. It's for us that we can perceive him, but he's directly present. Gopinath is directly the Supreme Lord here. And so there was one point that just escaped me about... Yeah, sorry, skipping now. But yeah, I think you'll get it. Okay. Okay, thank you. Sri Caitanya Caritamrta ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.